Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Nga. This is a very special occasion. So, you guys probably know what an iceberg is, but for those who don't, it's basically a big old diagram, a big old JPEG, where people assess the levels of a community online. And they go from the top, which is the most basic of content that everybody knows about. This basic content here, totally status level, surface of the iceberg. There you go, hence the pun, right? And then once you go down another layer, and down another layer, and down another layer, etc., things get more and more obscure, or cursed, or dark, or a combination of all of the above, and it just keeps on going down until you get to the bottom, like the deepest, darkest abyss. And those are the kinds of things that either nobody knows about, or a lot of people know about it, but they're so extremely cursed that they belong all the way at the bottom of the iceberg. So, a couple months ago, I asked my Schwa Discord community, link in the description, join it, it's fun, to send in suggestions for what should go on the iceberg and at which level. So after a few weeks of having it open for submissions back in February, I think, maybe even January. I've been working on this for a really long time. I got everybody's suggestions in, compiled it all into a big ol' iceberg, and the end result was beautiful and glorious and very, very time-consuming. And also, as to the contents of this iceberg, it's not just going to be Conlangs themselves. We decided to make this an iceberg for the entire Conlang community from the perspective of the AgmaWu Discord server. So there's going to be personalities on here, there's going to be Conlangs, there's going to be Conlangers, there's going to be linguistic features from natural languages that are inspirations for Conlangs, etc. So just so you know, you're going to be seeing more than just straight up names of languages being dropped here. It's all over the board. So here it is in all of its glory. Now this video, due to the amount of research that went into the crafting of all of this, is going to have to be split into two separate videos, most likely. So there's going to be a part 1 and a part 2. This obviously is part 1. I had to do a ton of research because it was really, a lot of it was a learning experience for me as well, but myself, Eternal, and several other Conlanging YouTube personalities, so you'll see as the video goes along, who will all also be linked in the description of this video, helped me, and we created a really awesome experience, and we're going to begin it. It's going to be awesome, so let's do this. Here we go. Layer 1, the surface. Now first on the list, as many of you might have expected, is Esperanto. Right, now this is probably pretty obvious. Esperanto's got to be one of the most widely known Conlangs in the world, also definitely the most widespread in terms of its speakers. It was designed in the late 1800s to be a quite Eurocentric international auxiliary language. It's got native speakers nowadays. I'm pretty sure everyone in this video has heard way too much about Esperanto. That's how widely known it is. People who don't know what a Conlang is usually know what Esperanto is. Dothraki. Dothraki, as one of the languages from Game of Thrones created by David Peterson, is also extremely popular. Now, the language itself isn't studied nearly as much as it should be. So much of it is just a part of the zeitgeist of American culture these days that people might refer to any kind of weird sounding language as sounding like Dothraki with, you gotta love human nature. Insert laugh track and Seinfeld song here. Klingon. Klingon is a Conlang created by Mark Okrand for the Star Trek series. It, too, is commonly appropriated in American culture as a punchline to any kind of weird sounding language, for any weird sound in general heard by any kind of baby boomer. The language itself is pretty interesting, and it's known for its interesting orthography among the Conlang community. Elvish, in quotation marks. Elvish is the pop culture term referring to the languages created by J.R.R. Tolkien for his Lord of the Rings universe, including Sindarin and Quenya. But no, those are too difficult to remember, so Elvish will do for those who exist only on this layer of the Conlang iceberg. These languages are extremely impressive and serve as the diving-in point for many, many Conlangers, who see them as nearly perfect examples of Conlangery. The aesthetics of Sindarin and Quenya have defined the stereotype for what a Conlang is for those who are just beginning their journey into our lovely niche. Matoran. Matoran is the language created for the Bionicle universe. This really only belongs on top of the iceberg for those under a certain age range, such as my age. Hang on a second. My age range? Bionicle is unanimously considered the coolest variety of Legos during the early 2000s, and its lore was extensive, including a writing system and an entire Conlang. The language itself isn't that great, honestly, but it's got a pleasing aesthetic. Matoran also served as a diving-in point for a lot of young Conlangers, including, who guessed, Newspeak. Newspeak is the language made by the party in George Orwell's novel 1984. It was designed to remove all possible forms of protest and negative thought from the English language. With the huge popularity of 1984 in Western society, the idea of Newspeak is quite pervasive, even if many don't really think of it as a Conlang in the classical sense. Tokipona. Now, Tokipona is one of the most popular Conlangs in the world. It was created by Sonia Lang in 2001, and it was a mini-lang, and it became very popular over the course of 20 years now. As Sonia has told me several times, Tokipona has evolved with its community more than she herself can describe. I feel like a person from the Tokipona community would be the best to explain it themselves.
Srila nili Tokipona tauli. Tokipona li nasi ante tawa toki ante lon. Toki mutela kon lilon tawa nimi mute. Toki ni la mi pin ni. Nasin toki la kon lilon tawa nimi. Yani nimi e kon. Tasa toki pona la nimi lilon. Nasin pali pin linia nimi ni lilon toki pona. Sina pali e toki e kon pi willis e kapiki nimi pi toki pona. Nina toki pi toki pona li samani. Sina toki e kon kapiki nimi li nimi ala e kon. Yan li kon e nimi tawa kon wile. Sina kon e nimi tawa wile la sina osona e kon wile. Nile musi suli pi toki pona tawa mi. Sina osona e kon wile. Sina o taso e kon wile. Nina sina ken toki pona.
The fact that languages can be made up. This had to go on top of the Conlang iceberg. Because, of course, lots of people have that plot twist, reality-altering realization that conlanging is a thing in order to get here in the first place. Going from the default mindset that languages just exist, I don't have an accent, etc., to suddenly, oh god, my mouth is a canvas upon which I can craft infinite universes, is a big change. I know it happened to me as I read Watership Down as a middle schooler. It probably happened to you too at some point since you're watching this video. Layer 2. The Shallows. This section is the level at which, according to my Discord community, people who have just begun their dive into the Conlang community will be familiar with. Ithkuil. Ithkuil is a rather cursed loglang/philosophical language created by Jeanclaude. Many people were introduced to this language via Jan Meisli's Conlang Critic episode on it, but long before this, Ithkuil gained a following on the internet for its extreme complexity. It has thus become one of the starting points for many people looking to create extremely intense languages. DJP. DJP is the Conlanging Lord and Savior, David J. Peterson. As I mentioned in the above tier, DJP created the languages of Game of Thrones, along with several other languages for television and film, along with stuff on his own. He wrote the book, The Art of Language Invention, which is literally the textbook for my college conlanging class. It's also considered to be one of the conlanger's sacred texts to many. More than the languages themselves, DJP is known for his accessibility and participation in the conlanging community. Real cool guy. Biblaridion. Biblaridion is one of the big conlanging YouTubers on the platform. His video series Feature Focus serves to advise many new conlangers looking to make their languages more interesting. Several of his languages, including Adun, are also quite well spread for their attention to detail and naturalism. Nowadays he focuses more on speculative biology, which has been a wild ride. Good stuff. God, the effort he puts into all of his work, amazing. Artifexian. Artifexian is the next of the big Conlang YouTubers. His videos on language features and conlanging advice are often cited as where many people found their first bits of inspiration towards making their own conlangs. He's probably most known to the general public for overall world-building content with really good production value and depth. Heednaf. Heednaf is, or was, depending on if he ever truly comes back, one of the first conlanging personalities on YouTube. His videos on real-world languages and conlanging advice brought a lot of people into the internet side of the conlanging community. His little stick figure character is etched into the minds of thousands of conlangers with a sense of nostalgia and fascination. Jan Meisli. Jan Miesely, whose channel was once called Conlang Critic, is the host of the series Conlang Critic. His videos are actually how I found out about most Conlangs in existence, other than my own, and I'm sure a lot of people had the same experience. He's doing videos on other stuff more and more lately, but the Conlang Critic series is a great source of information on popular Conlangs that have come into existence over the years. The List of Grammatical Cases article on Wikipedia. This list is the motherlode, the jackpot for new Conlangers. It goes like this. You learn that Conlanging is a thing, you look at some Conlangs, you see these things called cases, and intrigued, you go down a very quick rabbit hole on the internet to this jackpot of all the grammatical cases that have been shown to exist. Suddenly, you're on your way to making your first kitchen sink Conlang in all of its glory. PIE, or Proto-Indo-European. Proto-Indo-European is the proto-language that, as John McWhorter would say, was spoken by those horse riders on the steppes in Ukraine all those thousands of years ago. Now, depending on how into linguistics someone is, they could have gotten into Conlang by taking inspiration from the development of the Indo-European languages and other languages families, or they could have started Conlanging and then learned about PIE during their Wikipedia research sessions. r/Conlangs. r/Conlangs is the official subreddit for the Conlang community. It's on here where tons of Conlangery goes on. So many activities, discussions, memes, and more. This is actually where I did a lot of my early advertising to get views and subscribers. There's a high chance that you, the viewer, found me via Reddit, especially if it was longer ago in the past. Schwa. This is the Schwa. It is located here on the tier list because the discovery of the Schwa is a fundamental part of the journey of anyone going into linguistics of any form. You think vowels are just a thing that exists, no specialties, no varieties, until you learn of the Schwa, and then everything changes. Ask me how I know. Layer 3. The intertidal zone. I only called it this because I forgot what other people call this tier on the Iceberg. Votgil.
Votgil is a language created by Eigenmann and can be described as an attempt of an orc slang based on simplified English. Each word consists of only 3 letters, and Votgil is said to have 600 words, but many new words can be generated through compounding. The language itself is widely known for its generally interesting romanization, the grammar, the fact that Votgil literally means anti-English, and a writing system that was adapted for optimal usage in Minecraft.
Jack Eisenman. As mentioned before, Jack Eisenman is the creator of Votgil, with other languages such as Pegakibo, Zese, English with a Q, New, Fasilish, Lidepla, 1580, Keru, Breadspeak, Sese, and Zarafa, among a bunch of others. Where his popularity came from, I don't know, at all. However, it's clear that lots of people know of his languages, enough to be put this high on the Iceberg. It might be fair to say that a large amount of his popularity has come from the fact that Jan Miesely has done Conlang Critic episodes on 4 of his languages, but that might be sort of a chicken and the egg situation for me, because I don't know that part. If you know the origin of Jack Eisenman's popularity and notoriety on the internet, let me know in the comments below. Jeanclaude. That was my attempt. Jeanclaude is a word from the Conlang Sambasa, made into a meme, again by Jan Miesely, due to the difficulty of its pronunciation, along with the language's intended purpose as an international auxiliary language. AKA, it's meant to be pronounceable by as many people in the world as possible. Jan Miesely created the hashtag Jeanclaude challenge and had people create videos of themselves attempting to pronounce it. AgmaWu.
AgmaWu, or N, is a Conlang YouTube channel known for weird and cursed languages like the Rabbit Lang and Hyperpirate, but also for the translations of memes to his Conlang Arojun. And he also makes too many tier list videos, in my opinion, but at least he shows lazy Conlangers which tools to use, I guess, to make their language forging process even easier.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Tripthongs. Just as diphthongs are clusters of 2 vowels in a single syllable, triphthongs are clusters of 3 vowels in a single vowel cluster. It's not too common, but it can occur in some varieties of English, Spanish, Danish, German, Romanian, Vietnamese, and probably others. They can happen with the first, second, or third vowel in the sequence being the true nucleus of the syllable. It's just really cursed for its rarity, and for how much of a suspension of disbelief it would take to have a fully developed triphthong system in a language. Like those languages I mentioned that have triphthongs in them, or real world, have them only in weird, irregular situations, and there's no natural languages that have advanced combinations of triphthongs that are realized in phonemically differentiated ways. LCS. The Language Construction Society is a non-profit organization for conlangers, known for hosting the Language Creation Conference every year. The organization also features email boards and group chats for members to collaborate with one another. The site, conlang.org, is now also host to the Conlang database, which I did a video on a couple months back. Should definitely do it. Altaic.
Altaic is a hypothetical language family that probably has some merit, but is the linguistic equivalent of pineapple on pizza. It attempts to link many of the language families of Eurasia into one large family based on similarity between phonology, grammar, and a seemingly shared lexicon. The most canon Altaic proposal links the Turkic, Mongolic, and Tungusic languages in a relationship something like this, with the homeland about 7,000 years ago, somewhere around here. Some linguists also try to link Japonic and Koreac into Altaic with a relationship like this, which makes the Peninsular Japonic theory from my top 10 languages video look pretty good. But this is more controversial. There are also a few linguists who try to link Ainu in, which, holy crap, Ainu recognition, let's go! But yeah, no, Ainu is definitely an isolate. Now, applying a historical and geographical lens to Altaic, there's definitely a link between the languages. However, the link between the languages is more likely due to millennia of contact with each other and other language families in the area, thus forming a Sprachbund. As well, the lexical and typological data is very weak, and it's been shown that Turkic and Mongolic have actually gone linguistically closer. Thus, Altaic has largely been revoked and is no longer considered a legitimate family by most linguists.
Fish. Fish is an example of the cursed orthography of the English language. As Connor will explain later in the video, English is so messed up in terms of most of its features that even something as basic as the word fish could technically, by the rules of English writing, be spelled with a GH, like in enough, O, like in women, and TI, as in constitution, etc. Things like this prove Anadu yet again and provide inspiration to conlangers. Also, my 5th grade English teacher used this as her primary example for the funky wonky English language at work. Volapuk.
Volapuk can be considered the weirder, older sibling of Esperanto, and has always been in the shadow of other auxlangs like Esperanto or Sol. It was invented in the late 19th century by a fellow countryman of mine, a German priest who had a dream of God telling him to create an international language, which in my opinion sounds like an excuse for just wanting to conlang. Volapuk gained popularity soon, but this didn't last very long and soon fell into obscurity again, as it was deemed rather hard to learn. And nowadays it's only spoken by few, however Danish uses the word Volapuk to describe something that is nonsensical or gibberish.
Linguolabial trill. Says
is a seemingly humble, sleepy tongue tucked away deep in the Dagestan region of the Caucasus. There are less than 15,000 speakers of the language, a number that is rapidly declining due to the usage of Avar and Russian and a lack of education. However, Tsez holds a dark secret. The first speakers of the language must have watched my How to Make a Novel Conlang videos, since the phonology and grammar are insanely complicated. There are 33 consonants, most of which can also be labialized and or pharyngealized, and no standard orthography either, meaning that spelling is a complete mess. But Tsez is most known for its grammar, and rightfully so. It has 64 cases. You also have to inflict nouns for number and class. Tsez's pronouns, verbs, particles, and actually just about every single thing in the language is a mess. If the world's languages competed for the most complicated grammar, Tsez would completely blow everyone else out of the water. Just look at this. This is excessive, and I also don't understand 70% of it.
Vulgar lang. Vulgarlang is an online tool that generates a language in as little as one click. It was designed by a team based on the r/vulgarlang subreddit. I actually recently made a video in which I tried it out for the first time, because people were talking about it a lot and I hadn't tried it yet. The program does a pretty good job for what it's intended for. The spicy content comes from the creators allegedly getting really salty towards anyone who says anything bad about the program, or its existence, cost, etc. Overall, it's a good program though.
Nativelang already made a video on how this unholy concoction of a Georgian verb exists. Gvpertskvni. It basically means you, singular, peel us. Granted, the circumstances in which one would use it are about as weird as the word itself, but nevertheless, Gvpertskvni. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
MSKLC. MSKLC, or the Microsoft Keyboard Layout Creator, is a program created by Microsoft that allows for the creation of custom keyboard layouts. I've also done a video on how to use this program. It works pretty well, though there are a few more steps involved to getting it to actually work than with something else like Keyman Developer. Conlangers use tools like this to get their language's romanizations readily available for convenient typing, or even to make their own special IPA keyboards. Oyirwan. Oyirwan is a language created by my friend Kiro, aka An Otter Kiro. This language is known for being one of the most popular Conlang showcases on all of YouTube. The language itself has been declared completed by Kiro, and he's working on making new materials as we speak. Nevertheless, Oyirwan has become quite the inspiration for several people in the Conlanging community over the past couple years since the main showcase video came out, thus his position here on the Iceberg. Lortho.
Hello fellow Conlangers, I am Brian Borque, the creator of Lortho. Some of you are familiar with my work. Lortho is a verb, subject, object, agglutinating, nominative, accusative, pro-drop language. I designed it to be fairly easy to pronounce, and its sounds are heavily influenced by Indo-Iranian languages. I made the script to be realistic, practical, and have a feeling of antiquity, and I have purposely made the script to write only Lortho. You might have also seen another script I created, but we'll save that for another time. If you want more information about Lortho, please visit my website at lortho.conlang.org. Here you can see the development, its reference grammar, my current progress, and its lexicon. I also have a blog and a wiki, so please come have a visit, and I hope you enjoy what you see.
Layer 4. The depths. Things are starting to get deep now. Fandian.
Oh boy, I'm never gonna live this down, am I? Fandian was my first ever Conlang, intended to be a naturalistic language for an early version of my Conworld. The only problem was that it completely sucked in every way, so much so that I resolved to destroy it once and for all, but not before making a video explaining why it was so terrible as a warning to other Conlangers to not make the same mistakes that I did. But little did I know that this would only propel Fandian into infamy, and thus its evil still festers within the hearts and minds of humanity, and it will keep on haunting me until the day I die.
Thanks, Biblaridion. We'll never let it go. MegDavey. MegDavey is the first Conlang created by David Peterson, before Dothraki and Game of Thrones and all that. This language itself is pretty, interesting, meant to look like Arabic, while also featuring influences from French and Russian. He made this language when he was in college, and the sheet of most of its documentation is available on DJP's website. Most of the content is written in quotation marks, and the page is literally titled MegDavey, or The Folly of Youth. He definitely doesn't think much of this language. However, since this is the David J. Peterson, of course his various fans within our glorious Conlang community have, like with Fandian for Biblaridion, kept MegDavey in moderate notoriety over the past few years. Austronesian alignment. So, you have nominative-accusative alignment, you have ergative-absolutive alignment, you have the mixes in between, and whatever Japanese does, but then there's Austronesian alignment. Essentially in this system, which is found almost exclusively in Austronesian languages, big shock, nouns are given their position in the sentence with a specific affix that determines where they belong in the sentence hierarchy. Meanwhile, a special affix in each verb determines whether the verb itself is acting in the passive voice or the active voice or other voices. It sounds complicated, but it's essentially just a brand of split ergativity that places specific grammatical markers on every part of the sentence that can alter the meaning completely. Oh yeah, but then there's also variations that occur when the languages utilize locative voice and circumstantial voice and more, all of which create different hierarchies among the nouns in the sentence. And then there's also declarative voice and goal voice and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, I guess it can get pretty complicated. A lot of Conlangers try to use the Austronesian alignment just to be different, to varying results, thus its position this low on the iceberg. Allophonic pre-stopping. Allophonic pre-stopping is a process that consists in consonants being pre-stopped. That's right, pre-stopped. For example, ma and la may become ma and la. This phenomenon is found in certain Celtic languages, that is, Manx and Cornish, and also in Australian languages with sounds such as and I'm not even gonna try. Palatal, no. Celestial alphabet. The celestial alphabet is a rare example of an old-time conscript developed in the book Of Occult Philosophy in the early 1500s. It was made by a man named Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, who believed that the angels communicated with one another through the stars and other patterns in the sky and nature by speaking Hebrew, presumably, and writing inscriptions in this abjad, which is also quite inspired by Hebrew. Like, there are some exceptions, but you can still totally see the Hebrew abjad shining through this system. Apparently, some of the more culty branches of Abrahamic religions use this alphabet to conduct rituals, i.e., like, some Wiccan groups. Pretty interesting. Also, fun fact, it's written left to right, even though it, like, really looks very similar to just straight-up Hebrew. Just think about that part. The r/Conlangs YouTube channel. This, as you might have guessed, is the official YouTube channel for the r/Conlang subreddit. It's not used too often, and the things that it is used for are quite eclectic and relatively infrequent. They most recently uploaded a speedrunning video, though I haven't checked to see if they did my method or if they're just being cute frauds. Ooh woo. badconlangingideas.tumblr.com. This is a Tumblr blog whose name says it all. Fun fact, this is where Daniel Swanson got many of the ideas that he later incorporated into KFBOP-T. And I know I didn't pronounce that right, but we'll get to that later. Tibetan Spelling. You thought English spelling was bad? Well, you're right. It is. But Tibetan is worse. English spelling is about 500 years old, whereas Tibetan spelling goes back more than 1,000 years. So think of all the changes that have happened in English in the past 500 years that made its romanization pretty much useless. And then think if it was 1,000 years instead, and you got Tibetan. Pretty cursed. Connor Quimby. Connor Quimby is a linguistic memery YouTuber who is most known for his start in conlanging with the How to Make an Awful Conlang series. Frustrated by his repeated failures in conlanging, he took his accumulated knowledge and created a resource to help make one's conlang as complicated and messy as possible while still being usable. After finishing that series, he's made other videos on conlanging, but lately is making more videos about languages and linguistics in general. Superlinguo. Superlinguo is a blog on superlinguo.com that has been active for several years now. It's a hub for linguistics and conlanging related content on the internet, and it has been for a while. The site is led by Lauren Gown, and it appears to be a host of a good amount of tips and career info for aspiring linguists and conlangers. MUSA. The MUSA alphabet is intended to be a universal script containing letters for all of the basic IPA phonemes and then some. It even has letters for some more exotic sounds, such as no, and there were also entries for what appeared to be again, like Though after a closer look, we realized this probably just meant that the same letters are used for these phonemes. The alternative would be quite unsettling. Most importantly of all, though, according to the wiki, it was formerly known as Schwa. Lipu pi iu pi toki pona. This is a deliciously designed HTML site that is known for being the best centralized source of information regarding the Tokipona expanded universe, as I call it. This site is written entirely in Tokipona. If you didn't know, there are entire subdivisions of Tokipona that have evolved into literal dialects, with different words being created and accepted by different individuals and groups. Some of these are ironic, like they're meme words and stuff that are made just for internet lingo and jokes. And others are very much legit and fully fleshed out, unironic creations. The best way to check it out is to just click on links on the site and just dive in and see where you end up. Yeah, the Tokipona universe is pretty widespread. Another Conlang friend, Rob Dog Hot Dog, if I'm saying that right, made a video specifically exploring the Tokiponitos, as they're called, which might also give some more context to what this site has to offer. I, however, am not super deep in that Tokipona community, and thus probably shouldn't try to say too much more about it. And with that, we have come to the end of part 1 of this video. Now, we did layers 1 through 4 in this segment, and we're going to be doing layers 5 through 7 in the next part. These are very big videos, and they have been some very ambitious crossovers, so it's going to take a little time. That's why I'm splitting them up. And I just want to say thank you very much to everyone who participated in this video. We got Biblaridion, Brian Borque, Lycan, Käntwo, Connor Quimby, Banana Tree Labs on Discord for the Tokipona voice, and to everyone in the AgmaWu Discord server who helped me come up with ideas and submitted all your ideas, etc. to go onto the Iceberg, and to Eternal for, of course, helping me compile a lot of the information and much of the research required to know a lot of these things. I hope you guys learned a lot, because I totally learned a lot, and in the next video we're going to be diving even deeper. Things are going to get cursed, if you know what I mean. But until then, nga out. See you guys next time. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, become a patron on Patreon if you think I am worthy. Alright everyone, GG, see y'all next time for part 2. Have you clicked subscribe yet? I highly recommend it. I'm pointing my eyes downward in some direction, but I don't know if I'm pointing towards the subscribe button or not. It's like, I'm not good with mirrored spaces. I think it's... No, it's gotta be the other one. There we go. You subscribed yet? Or maybe you'll have a little button above. Well, what happens when you click that one? Only one way to find out. Okay, bye.